So there was this really bizarre post on this page meant for discussing great philosophical problems. I'm going to read some of it. And I'm going to chime in here and there because this author, his use of English didn't really get across to many of the participants. So his message was completely not heard. I'm going to get into it. All right. So he says, "You are enslaved in the legal religion of Baal Babylon." All right, that's a whole other thing. You got to look into the history of Babylon. There's a lot of coincidences. That's like a 2 hour video, so I'll just check that off. We'll get back in that. "You are enslaved in the legal religion of Baal Babylon if you wear the legal name Mark of the Beast." Um, for a long time they were talking about the Mark of the Beast. You got to look into that whole conspiracy thing. I mean, since way back in the day, they realized, man, it's going to get to some point where they're going to have identification numbers on every single person, and you're not going to be able to eat unless if you have the Mark of the Beast. We're not. I don't know if we're quite there yet. There's plenty of people who live off the books, off the grid. There are even some stateless people. I don't know if that actually works or not, but we're almost at the point where without citizenship, um, you can't eat almost. So citizenship, the mark of the beast. Some say it's your social security number. The social security number comes from the birth certificate. The birth certificate. There's a code on the back of the birth certificate, and it's not the birth certificate that they give your parents. It's the one that they keep in the Secretary of State bunker that you see on X Files. There's supposed to be some giant bunker that has everybody's birth certificates in there. The copy that they give you, that's just a copy of it. The real one, the original one, has some code on the back written in red or something, and that's supposed to be some kind of number that is your mark of the beast. It's your ID number. So I'm going to continue on. "You are enslaved in the legal religion of Baal Babylon if you wear the legal name Mark of the Beast while wearing that is illegal by legal design meant to enslave all users of Satan's usury." Usury. All right, usury is a good word. It has to do with making a loan where the interest is just wrong. We accept these loans. Sometimes you have payday loans and it's just like, hey, sometimes you need the loan that bad. Be like, yo, if you give me $10 today, I'll give you 20 tomorrow. Whatever, for whatever reason. A lot of times we don't know what we're doing when we get into loans. In this context, when I say we, I mean the United States of America supposedly had some kind of debt to England, and the Revolutionary War didn't quite settle that. Around the time of the Civil War, we were up for bankruptcy again, and we had to resettle the debt, and that caused the North and South to fight back. Slavery was a big part of the Civil War, but additionally, it was something about not being able to get Congress together because of the war. And one of the ways they thought they could refinance the debt was to put up I forget what it was. I think they put up all the land first, and then later on they put up all the property, and then later on they put up all the people. I think it was the 1938 bankruptcy, sometime in the 30s. That's when they took birth certificates out of the church and put it into the state. Before the 30s, uh, on starting from the 30s, they decided to start really making a database of all this. If like you're a citizen, your social security number is this, your birth certificate is this. That's when they started all that stuff. Mark of the Beast comes from bankruptcy. Okay, so about the usury thing, you are collateral. Not you, but and there's an identity crisis thing that we got to get into. But you are. That's what this whole thing is about. Identity, by the way. So your birth certificate is on a securitized financial instrument. That's why it looks really similar to a stock certificate or the title of your car. It's a securitized instrument. Because it's used as collateral for the debt. Each person is supposed to make like $1 million in their lifetime or whatever. So I'm worth $1 million. So here's another baby. Here's another $1 million that we can put up as collateral for the debt. All right. So I'm just trying to provide some background for where the usury comes in. All right, so I covered a little things. I'm going to back it up and get back to where we are now. You are enslaved in the legal religion of Babylon if you wear the legal name mark of the beast. While wearing that is illegal by legal design, meant to enslave all users of Satan's user. Steal your soul or damn it, worshiping the ID mark of the beast. Only damned, and I do mean damn fools, worship Satan's mark and his goofy legal nonsense where only 10 commandments need applied. All right, so I'm going to try to interpret that. Did you know there's a difference between legal and lawful? Yeah, yeah. So the joke goes the United States of America has 50 million statutes, acts, provisions, but on that mountain, God gave Moses only 10 laws. All right, so as Thomas Jefferson stole from John Locke, we have rights that are inalienable. Okay, like the God given laws, those things are generally agreed to be inalienable. But what that means is like it can't really be given up. It's not negotiable. All right, like I'm gonna get into more of this. Okay, so oh yeah, Satan's legal stuff. All right, more into that. If you're following the righteous way, okay, you're dealing with the inalienable rights. If you get wrapped up in the game of man, the game of commerce, and all that legal bullshit, then you're kind of playing into this satanic society. It's this whole thing that is this whole list of rules that we humans over hundreds of years came together and agreed upon and destroyed religion or whatever. I don't know, but people who are like really, really overly spiritual. I don't want to say overly spiritual, but you'll tend to find that religion has a lot of superstitious and weird symbolic stuff going on. And when you strip all that away and get to the metaphorical things behind, I mean, if scripture of any religion is interpreted by somebody who is highly spiritual, and if it's interpreted by somebody who is highly spiritual, then they can see things. All right. So, all right, so God didn't literally hand Moses a tablet of 20 laws, and then Moses trips and breaks 10 of them and takes only 10 of them down. And those are the, it's not literally like that, but um, I guess what he's trying to say is getting too wrapped up in the legal language and stuff is kind of satanic. All right, there's layers above that, and that's kind of dangerous philosophically, though, because we still have people talking about. We still see evidence all the time of people who are super religious circumventing, going too far with what they think is right, and that's a problem. That's really a problem. But in America, we have freedom of religion, so this person is free to think like this. All right, so let me get back into this. You were enslaved in the legal religion. You were the mark of the beast. Only damned, but I mean damn fools worship same mark and the goofy legal nonsense of attendant you applied. Legal name equals ID of worship, but if you're too stupid to even Google legal name fraud to get out of the webs you're tangled in, it's your choice, buddy. It's illegal to use a legal name in anything in Satan's will without a bar card. Um, If you want to play with legal demonic sorcery, then go serve Satan properly with one of his double down and damn legal bar membership cards, so that way you can fleece humanity with your greedy lust along with those going to hell. Um, the bar card thing. So it's illegal to practice law in the United States without being a licensed attorney. Okay, so you got to go through all this stuff to get the bar card. And I'm not a lawyer. I never really tried to be a lawyer, but I've been told by some law school dropouts that along the way you have to make some compromises, should I say? Um, really similar to when you want to get into the music industry, and then you get up to a certain point, and then the people in suits come up to you and tell you like, we can make you a star if you make some changes, and then you're like, but my art, so legal stuff, a lot of people get into wanting to be lawyers so they can help people, and then when they find out the way things really are, and it becomes not what it really seems. It's a whole bag of traps. Anyway, I've been told that Esquire, being it's kind of like you're being knighted when you get the bar card, and there's some missing amendment in which like terms of nobility are stricken from being able to do stuff in America. That's like one of those missing. They say it's a missing amendment because you can only find it if you go actually to see the copy of the Constitution. You'll find it crossed out. On all copies of the Constitution that you find online and in books, they're not going to include the crossed out part. Sure, And the other amendment, there's another amendment that's crossed out. That's the one about prohibition. So um, therefore that's law. I don't know, but I'm just telling you what the legend says, okay? Because I did a lot of research in this stuff, and this guy isn't really presenting himself very well. I mean, there's a lot of personal stuff mixed in here. If you want to play legal demonic sorcery, then go serve Satan properly, one of his double down and damn legal bar cards. And by the way, you can fleece humanity with your greedy lust along with those heading to hell. Legal name equals consenting to be dead slave. Um, you are alive, you're doing your thing, but your legal fiction, your juristic person is what they call it. Your mark of the beast. They call it your juristic person. Look that up on Wikipedia. That's a real thing. Um, you that's dead. It's not a living thing. It's a corporate entity. Let me make sure I'm still recording. Okay, good. I'm gonna go back to that. So that's why you're dead. Consenting to be a dead slave. You have no rights and no voice in Satan's courts because you're already seen as dead. That's true. I guess I have to explain that to you now. Oh man, the dead and the living. That's why they ask, "Are you appearing before court?" Because ghosts and apparitions appear. If you were alive, then you would actually be here. So the part of the legend is when Neo comes and he walks into the courtroom and he breaks this whole thing apart, he's supposed to object to appearing and say, I am here. All right. So anyway, when you're in a court, all this stuff is on paper. It's all about entities on paper transacting with things. So that's why they need to have the dead corporate entity on paper. So that's they need a body to throw into the jail, and that's what you're for. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this. You play my demonic, you're consenting to be dead slave. You have no rights and no voice in Satan's courts because you are already seen as dead. If you think you're a dead thing, then you are what you are by acting your actions and choice to live in a dead world of axes and axis death contracts. It's a deed thing of doing right, not a deed thing of justified wrongs and evil. Google legal name fraud. Your soul depends on it. Ignore this, then at least you know you're going to hell with Satan's fallen bar mitzvah boys. He's got a lot of wordplay in this. It's illegal to use a legal name because it's meant to be illegal to use a legal name. Okay, let me stop you there. I think what this guy means by legal name is using your family birth name through like the church or whatever. Like, I mean, if uh, you weren't using the name that's on your birth certificate, uh, that's your legal name. This guy should be saying lawful name. It's illegal to use a lawful name because it's meant to be illegal to use a lawful name. All Satan has to do to get you to think you don't exist in real life, only graven images, ID dolls. Oh, yeah, the graven images. Crap. That's another thing that we were warned about. You show up somewhere and you're like, hi, I'm John and I have this car. And they're like, do you have ID? They don't believe you. They don't take your word for it. They have to have a graven image that has your graven image and your juristic person written on it. Because you can only transact with dead juristic persons. You can't transact with people unless if you're off the books. And now that is illegal. So mark of the beast, that's what I'm saying. So anyway, it's meant to be all Satan has to do get you the great graven image. The ID dolls make you the original sinner criminal where only the bar clubber can practice legal law. Everyone else is a criminal by their legal definitions, and this is how your lives are ripped apart every day by their armed goons. Armed goons. It is all about guns. The fact is, the state has the guns. You don't. So, like it or not, I mean, by force, this is the way it is. So you have to accept it, right? There's no way out of it at this point. Everyone else is criminal by their legal definitions. This is how your lives are ripped apart every day by their armed goons and filthy black robe judges and lawyers. Okay, the filthy black robe judges, that's another thing. The judges wearing the black robes, that's supposed to have something to do with something. There's symbolism there somehow. The lawyer demons stealing families, children, homes, businesses, and lives murdered. They're not killing one who hasn't agreed to be already dead citizen. Okay, what the government does to you when they take you away or abduct your body, you already agreed to this. You already agreed that you're dead, so they're not really killing you. The whole death row, this brings up a lot of questions about how death row works. That's pretty funny. Scary. So I got to get back on track. There's a lot to go by here. I feel like I'm wasting a lot of time. They're not killing anyone who hasn't agreed to already be dead. So when you agree to identify with your juristic person, which is this dead corporate entity, then you, the living person, philosophically might cease to exist at that point. If you forget who you are and identify with the graven image and the mark of the beast, praise Jesus. I love that how, if you get into this conspiracy stuff too far, you run into a lot of religious kind of language. And I think it's really important to cut. I mean, sure, a lot of these people are religious, so they're going to use that kind of language. But if you cut through this kind of language and try to find the metaphorical truth that's in there, I mean, I think there's valid stuff in here. So anyway, everyone's dead legal definitions, and they have agreed to be dead already. Thus, getting away with murder regularly, regardless of race or religion. Legal is the GNU, the New World Order religion. More wordplay. And your hoarder RVs they consume. Google legal name fraud. Your very life depends on it. And don't be the same stoop-ID child whining about rights instead of doing what's right. Whining about rights instead of doing what's right. I was told by a lawyer, the Fifth Amendment isn't something that your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, avoid illegal search and seizure, unreasonable searches. That's not a right to be claimed. It's a right to be exercised. So, for example, when a police officer asks you a question in which the answer could incriminate you, you don't say, "Is it okay if I plead the Fifth Amendment?" No, all you have to do is exercise the amendment. Just turn, look at him, and say nothing. You have the right to remain silent, and that right cannot be taken away. That's just an example. Instead of whining about your rights, you have to exercise them. But you have to have some faith that these rights are truly inalienable. And even if they beat you down and throw you in the prison cell, that's the hard part about all this, because we're in a satanic culture where everything's backwards. And so a lot of times doing what's right can make you a radical. And it's a really tough situation we're in. I mean, like, how do you know what's right? All of us are trying to just walk on the line and just hope that nothing happens. I have something I can speak to that. That was something that was a problem in Nazi Germany. And I don't have my book with me, so I can't talk about that. Google legal name fraud. Your very life depends on it. And don't be the same ID stupid trouble whining about rights instead of doing what's right. Your choice. Tick tock, not much clock left, and the T wins. As a fundamental flaw, mistake of all legal proceedings, it is a legal fact in which the legal reality, fictional existence that is illegal for everyone and everyone outside of a bar card in which one must already be fraud to enter the law school using a fraudulent legal name is one example of fraud on fraud, regardless or sworn oath using a fraudulent with permissions granted only to titles attached to only legal names, otherwise to serve the owner-operators of the fictional crown corporation by willful and knowing, unknowing omission, commission of fraud, absolute consent to be, act as, lay claim to, act and roll of, by a legal name, entity, legal character as it appears in any legal books of the registrar, registration, registry, dead crown, ID, family, entity, tree, whereby any and all legal name, titles, designations, ranks, corporations, etc., and others are in fact property of the Crown Corporation, and use thereof without clear and explicitly present permissions by the legal owner representative thereof, and by foresaid such owner of all said legal creations, is illegal in every way, rendering such user in a state of instant dishonor in the eyes of a court, a fraudulent, felon, and criminal, regardless of the nature of any and all accusations made by any Crown Corporation represented as bar card, sworn oath, or not, since they are in commission of a fraudulent act. CAFR account, bonds, etc. Here in this doctrine, it is spelled out for the readers. So, slow down a little bit. You probably don't understand any of this, so I got to back it up a little bit. Crap. Any legal names, titles, designations, ranks, corporations, etc., and others are in fact property of the Crown Corporation. What does that mean? Who's the Crown? The Crown Corporation is. Okay, you know what the District of Columbia is? What is that? Is that a state? Is that a city? Is that a city state? Is it a corporation? Um, so the capital of the United States. It's in the District of Columbia Corporation, which was invented in 1871, and this was how Lincoln was able to get Congress to resume because the de jure United States of America that Thomas Jefferson and all those guys created that existed until 1871. It's been dormant since then. At that point, Lincoln created the District of Columbia Corporation, which the United States Corporation is a subsidiary of that. And what we think of as the United States government is really just a corporation that has been just running stuff since 1871. And that's a whole nother. That's one of my favorite conspiracy theory things. Like read about the Act of 1871. That thing is a rabbit hole. That's a trip. But anyway, so we got District Columbia Corporation. The Vatican City is its own thing. It's not Italy. It's its own city state. It's this own thing that's outside of Italy and or whatever it is. And the city of London is also a city state that isn't part of England. It's this it's this it's a corporation that has its own thing going on somehow. So the conspiracy theory is these three cities are subsidiaries of another corporation. They call it the Crown. They say because we're still in debt to England, believe it or not, after all this, even though it's 2016. Because like I said, we've been putting the people up as collateral since the 30s. And something about closing the gold window in 1971 has something to do with that because the IMF, the Crown Corporation created the IMF and the World Bank and a bunch of other global government kind of organizations to start handling the finances and international trade. And so the Crown Corporation, okay, so just for the sake of this legend, you just got to see them as that's the company that owns everything except for Venezuela, Iran, and North Korea. Something like that, all right? So, so where are we? All legal names, okay, legal name, juristic persons, all juristic persons, that includes corporations and people. It includes your car. It includes the VIN number for your car. It includes pretty much anything for which there's a securitized instrument for. So not only every corporation, not only birth certificate, car title, stock, bonds, all that stuff is property of the Crown Corporation, and individuals only have a claim of right to it. On the deed for your house, you're listed as a tenant. You have claim of right to the house, but the land underneath the house is owned by that municipality. The municipality is owned by the state, and the state is owned by the feds, and the feds are owned by the District of Columbia Corporation. The District of Columbia Corporation is owned by the Crown. So, you, because you have a birth certificate, your juristic person is also property of the Crown Corporation. Um, and you continuing to use your mark of the beast is you consenting to this relationship. Um, so now I'm going to reread this paragraph, and I hope it makes a little more sense. As a fundamental flaw slash mistake of all legal proceedings, it is a legal fact in the legal reality existence that is illegal for anyone outside of a bar card in which one else will also already be in fraud to enter law school using a fraudulent legal name is one example of fraud regardless. Or sworn oath. I got to stop reading those parentheses things. I'm going to start over. As a fundamental flaw of all legal proceedings, it is a legal fact in the legal reality fictional existence that is illegal for anyone outside of the bar card or sworn oath using fraudulent with permissions granted only to titles attached to legal names to serve the owners and operators of the fictional Crown Corporation and willfully, unknowingly, omission, commission of fraud absolute, consent to be. That's another parenthesis, but I don't see where the other parenthesis begins. Man, this guy's really bad at writing, but we must forgive him because that's the Christian thing to do. Permissions granted only to titles. I have to explain that. They say children ask for permission, but adults and free people just do. Because we are children of the state, we are dependent on the state. We have to ask permission for everything. We got to get permits and licenses, and we have to get things registered. So we're always asking permission. And in asking permission, you are acquiescing, you're consenting to your property and your rights to be, a privilege, like to be alienable. Um, I forget which Supreme Court case this is. Very early on, during the days of the United States, one of the really early Supreme Court cases decided it is illegal, it is unlawful for any state to take a secured liberty and convert it to a privilege by offering a license and a fee for it. However, Congress retains the right to regulate commerce. What does that mean? Okay, you must realize how often you are acting in commerce. Because you're using the dead fictional entity, because you're using the juristic person, the graven image with your mark of the beast, because you're using that, you're engaging in commerce, like it or not. Even when you go to the club and show them your ID to get in, that's engaging in commerce. Because that's not an act of you as a person, like just living on, just doing your thing. You're acting as you're acting like in slave terms, okay? So everything you own, your car, your house, everything that you thought you owned, you only really have claim of right to it. All of our possessions are really owned by the state. Did you know that? So let me continue reading. Property of the Crown Corporation, and use thereof without clear and explicitly present permissions by the legal owner. All right, so it's illegal in any way rendering such user in a state of instant dishonor in the eyes of the court. I want to talk about instant dishonor. If you are in the courtroom, if you are a defendant, you are already in dishonor once you enter your plea. When you enter your plea, you have given consent for them to proceed with the prosecution, and kind of like how they said they can't kill you because you're already dead. because you have consented to proceeding with the prosecution, you have consented to being in dishonor, and they give you a chance to prove that you're not in dishonor, but you're leaving it up to them. You're throwing yourself at the mercy of the court. If you were not in dishonor, you should be able to handle your administrative matters outside of the courtroom. They set these things up so because you agree to be a citizen or you agree to the driver's license, which opens you up to all these other rules, if you agree to be acting in commerce, then you're subject to 50 million act statutes and all that. So uh, yeah, so if you broke the law, then you're in dishonor. That's a very common way. I think most people agree with that. Be like, well, don't do the crime if you don't do the time. Unfortunately, it's our duty, it's our civic duty to be aware of all 50 million statutes, acts, and everything. But they don't tell you that in the school, even though it's tax paid for. But anyway, I'm trying to get caught up to where I left off. Sworn oath or not, since they are in the commission of a fraudulent act, here in this doctrine is spelled out for the reader receiver clearly in their lack of understanding. This doctrine renders them incompetent, thus everything they take is a mistake, where fraud is the intent of the legal name. Fraud ad infinitum, and obviously a criminal mind is incapable of rational thought, where a reasonable being simply looks for every reason under the sun to escape their own responsibility. Via mm, let's just say here, what he means by that is sometimes you do the right thing, but you can still be a criminal. Sometimes you can do the wrong thing, but by manipulation of the legal language, a lawyer can get you off, even though you committed the crime. That's pretty interesting. I mean, we have it set up so one guilty person getting off is not as bad as 9 innocent people going to jail or getting their hands cut off. So that's another benefit of the society that we take, and we counterbalance that with the duties of citizenship. Um, that's my thing, though. I'm throwing in a little too personal stuff. What I'm trying to do here is explain what this person you think is a wacko is talking about. Let me read that again. Here in this doctrine is spelled out for the reader clearly, and their lack of understanding this doctrine renders them incompetent. Thus, everything they take is a mistake, where the fraud was intended legal name, and obviously criminal mind incapable of rational thought, where a reasonable being simply looks for every reason under the sun to escape their own responsibility. Via legality is not reality. Legal means in their complicitness in these crimes against creation and truth until they decide otherwise. Simply put, criminals, destroyers of humanity, destroyers of life itself. In short, it is illegal to use a lawful name, all legal references aforementioned, regardless of claims made to the contrary by all legal agents of the contrary, where all legal agents defined in herein, who uses any legal definitions of who, what they think they are, a dead fictional character, no voice. Following this outline are only some examples of the total illegality of legal name fraud, where legal name, all fictional legal entity transformation of non-paper existence anywhere non-living conscious form outside the confines of a dead legal reality moment to speak idea to exist at all. It's a fictional character reality that only exists in the minds of those who create said fictional characters, because we're playing a game. We're playing a game, and part of the rules of the game is you only exist if you have the mark of the beast. If not, what does that make you? An illegal alien? Off the grid? A stateless individual? A bum? You're getting you're getting the benefits of society without putting into it. That's what they say. That's how sheep keep each other in line. And um, now I'm starting to sound like a crazy person. All right. So anyway, parties of the words, the original fundamental nature construct of the treaty contract agreement has been altered. And okay, now he's talking about how the social contract has changed so much that excuse me for a second, I gotta take a call.